Welcome to About Money podcast. We're here again on a Wednesday. So if you have questions about anything, be sure to send me a message. Anyway, I want to talk to you about something that happened. The homeless guy said he just wanted $20 from my client and he would cut his lawn. Now, my client was a bachelor, had never been married before. He had retired. But he said to the homeless guy, I gave you $20 before. And he didn't cut the lawn. The response from the homeless guy was to knock down my client, kick him in the head, and he caused brain damage. So much brain damage that my client ended up in a special facility and spent the rest of his life in that type of facilities. But I'm really getting ahead of myself. The story really began in 1987. 1987, Frank came to me. He was a postman, spent his entire life working for the post office. He had a pension, and he also had a thrift plan. The thrift plan was $216,000. And he decided to split the thrift plan between myself and a broker, financial advisor. In those days, we were stockbrokers. Decided to split it between the two of us. $108,000 to me, $108,000 to the guy from Merrill. During the time he was with me for those first few years, I would talk to him almost every time about moving the money from Merrill to me. And I'm convinced that the Merrill broker was trying to do the same thing, move the money from Mike to Merrill. And that went on for about a period of 10 years after he started. He called me up one day and said, we need to have lunch. So Frank lived in Tacoma. He drove up to Seattle, drove slowly up to Seattle. He didn't like to drive at 60 miles an hour. He drove at around 45 miles an hour up the freeway. Was upset that all those other people were driving the speed limit, but that's another story. So we had lunch, and he said, my account with you is now $1 million. Started at $108,000. It's now $1 million. I want to buy you lunch. So we had lunch. And during the lunch, I said, so Frank, how's the account at Merrill Lynch doing? And he said, it's $140,000. And I thought to myself, Frank, you should move. Oh, and Frank said, I should move the money to you. I said, Frank, you should keep the money at Merrill Lynch because you'll appreciate what I do. Eventually, Frank moved the money to me. And shortly after he moved the money to me was the encounter where the homeless guy knocked him down, kicked him in the head, and sent him into special facilities for brain damage. I mean, he was so gone. He had no memory of or a year ago. His memory was truly, really gone. The fact is, had he moved all that money to Merrill, he would not have been able to afford the facility and care he received. And he continued. He was 62 years old in 1986. He lived to the age of 94. And he lived for those 30 years in special treatment facilities and was able to afford it. Now that's not going to happen to very many people, and that's a catastrophic event. But it illustrates the point that having that extra money, that extra nest egg, is truly something that's really, for me, is really important. Performance counts. The average financial advisor achieves a performance of around 5%. We are targeting double-digit returns for our clients. Just above 10% for conservative accounts, maybe up to 15% for aggressive accounts. The difference between 5% and 15% over a period of 25 years is a difference between $1.5 million and $16 million. It's a huge difference. And in today's world, my industry tells the advisors, sell the relationship, not the performance. They tell them to make people like you. Don't talk about the performance. Talk about goals and objectives and how people can reach that. Which brings me to the question, what's the difference between performance and reaching your goals through performance and what those financial plans do? I need to take you back. When I started my career, I started in the aluminum industry. I started as an up-and-comer, and I ended up being superintendent of a plant. But during that period of time, I was on the investment committee for the thrift plan and for the retirement plan. And every quarter, we would meet with the money managers, and we would go over the returns we were getting and the outlook for the future. The company was putting 4% of the employee's salary, matching, not even a match, but a straight 4% went into that plan. And that was enough to guarantee their retirement. And when they retired, the last 3 years of their salary was averaged, and they received 80% of it. But they were only putting away 4% without any employee match. 4%. Today, if you look at what's going on in defined contribution plans, if you look at what financial call for, it's up to 10%. So what's the difference between 4% back in the 60s, 70s, and 10% today? So I'm a mathematician. So 10% times 4 is 40%. 4% or 10% by 4 is 40%. If you look at it, 10 times 4 is the same as 4 times 10. If you're able to achieve a 10% return over a period of time, it's the same as a 4% return. Or I'm getting really confused now. That's in the day in which I was part of that investment committee. The returns were 10%. And that was over a period of 30 or 40 years. Today, it's the same if you put in 10% in contribution to receive a 4% return. 10 times 4 is 4 times 10. Okay. If that makes sense, then anyway. Confusing. What I'm really saying is because the returns were so much better for the thrift plan, for the retirement plans in the 60s and 70s and the defined benefit plans, because there was a real focus on achieving performance, achieving returns, they were able to contribute significantly less than what financial plans call for today. So yes, the idea is to reach your goals, and to reach your goals, you just have to contribute a lot more money. Unless, of course, you can find somebody that can truly produce better returns. And that's what we do. That's the focus at Adams Financial Concepts, is we do have a passion for creating and maintaining wealth. That's our focus. And there's a reason for that. Not everyone is going to be like Frank, who has a catastrophic event. But think of some of the things that can affect what you get. Studies show that 40% of us are going to have cancer. And yes, I have had a bout of prostate cancer. Prostate's completely gone. Everything's healthy. But 40% of us are going to have an experience of having cancer. And of that 40%, 25% are to have extreme financial difficulties in meeting it. In fact, 1 out of 4 people that have cancer will end up running out of money. That's the statistics today. 1 out of 4. The biggest reason for bankruptcies is medical. It's not somebody starting a business and going out of business. It's not somebody that overspends. It's because people have a medical emergency, medical that's not covered by insurance. 1 out of 4, 40%. That's 10% of the population faces the probability of running out of money because of medical reasons. A number of studies have shown that the expectation is that 1 out of every 4 people will run out of money. And I've seen studies that show it's as high as 47% of Americans will run out of money by the time they die. Studies are showing even that people fear running out of money more than they fear death. All of that comes back to the question of what's the performance? How are you doing in your portfolios? It's not an easy matter to achieve. My industry sells the idea of sell the performance, make your clients like you, make your clients really focus on how nice you are. Make sure that they don't think about how poorly they're doing in their accounts, because they are doing pretty poorly. The average financial advisor is achieving a 5% return for their clients. That's not enough to deal with things like inflation. The Goldman Sachs study and some of the other studies are showing that even drawing down 3.7% every year as a cash flow out of your account will run you out of money over the long period of time. And we're living longer. We need money more, and we face greater medical costs, greater transportation costs. Those things are coming. Are you to think about that? You know, if you really need to have a performance. We've been saying since 2016 that we expect inflation to go up. The inflation we saw in 2021, 2022, that was a demand pull type of inflation. That's easy to solve, and it was solved fairly easily. If we get into a different type of inflation, a cost push inflation, it's much more difficult. We go back to the stagflation days of the 1970s if we get into that. That means you have to have a recession at the same time as you have inflation. That means it's important to have more, a margin of safety. It's important to build that today, not tomorrow, not the day after tomorrow. The best time to begin was yesterday. The next best time is today. That's where we're headed. It makes sense. Every Adams Financial Concepts that our clients sign says that we want and seek to do better than the Standard & Poor's 500 with the dividends reinvested. There's a reason for that. We want our clients not to run out of money. We want our clients, when they no longer have an income coming in, to have a steady stream of cash flow going to them. Same cash flow. Market up, market down. They get the steady stream of cash flow. That's where we want our clients to be. That's what we want to happen. If you have an issue, if you have a question, please contact me here on LinkedIn. Please send me a message and I will respond within a couple days. If you want a free evaluation of your portfolio and how it might survive, how it's doing, we'll do that too. And if you don't even know if your portfolio is doing well, look at it at the beginning of last year and the end of the year and what the difference is. Try to figure out how you're doing. So that wraps us up for today. Have a great week, and I'll be back next Wednesday.